Hi guys, and welcome to the last project for this year. So we're going to kind of veer away from Mathia and activities. If you would like to continue working on Mathia, I believe you'll have access to it through July, and that would be a great thing to do. But for the next couple weeks, we're going to do something a little bit more fun, and you're going to do a capstone project called Desmos Art. So all of the links you will need for the next 3 weeks will be in this document, and that will be posted in Classroom as well as on the FEA website. But you're going to create a project and it's going to be turned in through this Desmos link. So I'll click on that in a minute, but I just want to talk you through this. So the first 5 slides of that activity are going to show you some strategies. So it's going to show you some strategies for restricting the domain and the range, how to make your picture animate and move. Here is going to be the rubric. So you need to create an original work of art using this rubric. You can disregard the presentation piece. We will not have a presentation with that. And in that rubric, it will show you the function families that you need to use. So if you click on this document, this will give you an idea. I want to see you incorporate lines, quadratics, absolute value equations, exponential equations, and you can see them coming here. They're loading kind of slow. But I gave you the general form of these. So you can just play around with putting some numbers in here that will make the equations move in different directions in order to create your picture. So one of the things that's a big focus on the SAT are circles. So this shows you the general form of a circle and then how you would shift it left, right, up, or down. Square root functions, rational functions, cube root, and then as you've seen in Mathia, at the end here, we've done what's called sinusoidal curves, so sine, cosine waves. I also gave an example of what an ellipse or what an oval would look like. So those are the different function families you're going to kind of play around with, and that link is here. So the idea is on this rubric is that you want to use one function from all 9 of those families. Okay, you want to try to use about 18 functions altogether. You want to be able to restrict the domain and the range, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. That you want to have something that actually looks like a picture or some kind of artwork. Okay, so that kind of goes through the rubric. And then what I've got down here, there is a bonus feature if you can animate your art using sliders, and that's when it makes the art work. I've got a couple of really good videos. This advanced tip really shows how to animate. So this guy made a person, and he made the eye right here animate in and out, and he made the eyebrows go up and down. So this is like his left eye, his left ear, and hair. So you'll see a full picture of that. There's also some really good examples here of what other students have done. So I want to go back up here for a minute and give you a couple samples. So here's one project that was done a couple years ago, and you can turn lines off or on to see what happens. So here's the horizontal line at y equals 1, and they restricted it to go between negative 12 and negative 1.5. So as you can see, I'm turning it off and on, and that's how you make the tail, that horizontal line, not continue out forever. If you look down here, you can see here's a vertical line that's restricted. And when a vertical line is restricted, we restrict the y value. So it goes from negative 7 to 0 on the y-axis. Down here is an example of using sliders. So what they did is they typed in the general form of an ellipse. So it's a parabola. It's the inverse of a parabola. So as you can see, as I turn this off and on, it's the U shape, but it's inverted, so it's sideways. So you just replace the Y with an X, and the X with a Y. But notice that they didn't put values in here. They put variables. So what you can do when you turn this slider on, it will show you what this graph looks like as it toggles through all these different A values. And when you find it where you want it, you just slide it exactly to the position you want it for your picture, and you stop there. So here's playing with the H value, so it's shifting it up and down. And when it comes back down to where you want it, you try to hit pause exactly on it, or you can slide it like this. So that's one way to do sliders or animations. Here, it looks like, oh, I see. So they tied this equation. Notice they used H and K, and those are tied to the H and K values up here. Okay. Let's see some other things they did. Here's, okay, that's just a line. That's a parabola. Okay, so down here, this is kind of interesting. This is an equation of a parabola, but notice that it's all y values greater than or equal to that. So they wanted to shade it, everything above that, but they didn't want it to go anything above -4. They just wanted the shading to go from this vertex point all the way up to here. So that's how you can do shading, is by doing the inequalities. Okay, so that's just one example. Another example is, and I think I may have shared this before, but I'm not a very artistic person. So for me to visualize something and create it would be very difficult. So what I did is I took this picture when I was in New York City, the World Trade Center, and I went to the plus sign and I added an image right here. So I imported this picture. So I did that first, and then I started creating equations that would outline the different portions of this. Okay, so it was really hard for me to visualize making this on my own. So I used this picture as a base, and then I added, notice I added a sine wave down here. You can see some of the other things. Here's a quadratic. I also went through, what I did here is I plotted points that went along the top of this, and then I used a quadratic regression to come up with the parabola that went across there, and then I restricted the domain. So you can use regression equations. I want to show you one more that one of my students did, and it was amazing. One of my students a couple years ago did the Falcon logo, and he started with this picture, and then as you can see in a portion of this, to get this whole curve here, he plotted points and put those points into a table, and then he did a 5th degree regression to come up with this curve that would go over here, and then he restricted it. Okay, so once he got those values, he plugged that in. So this was obviously an amazing project. He worked on it for quite a long time. He researched some different forms of functions, but that was outstanding. Okay, so when we get back to our activity here, in this Desmos activity link. So I just want you to make sure that you go through and watch all of these, get an idea of what you can do. There's some advanced tips. But then when you're ready to start, you're going to open up this Desmos activity link. And you'll be able to revisit this activity as you work. So the first few slides, I created this. It kind of talks, use all of the function families listed. Here's a link to find out how to create some equations. But the first 5 slides are just kind of showing you how to restrict things. Okay, so I want you just to kind of explore turning those off. But when you get to slide 7, so there it talks to you how to color things or how to shade them. So this is all just a resource for you to look at. But when you get to slide 7, this is the place that you're going to begin creating your artwork. So all of your equations are going to be put in here, and your art is going to be here. So if you want to zoom it out, you can. You can change your window. If you decide that you want to bring in an image, you're going to go over here to plus, you're going to bring in some sort of image to outline. Let's see if I have anything. Okay, so let's say I decide to do this. I'm going to bring in this image, and then I can begin creating equations for that. So I can zoom. I think you can click this. I could move it. I believe you can play around with space. Yep. So I can play around with size. If I want to move it over on the axis or wherever, I can move this. Oops. Somehow you guys will be able to figure it out. Okay. So you're going to do all of your activity here, so you can keep going back to it multiple times as you work. Then at the end, there's 2 reflection pieces. What did you like most about this project? What would you change about this project? And it's going to allow me to check in with you. So if at any time you get stuck, I will be able to go to your project and I can make comments or I can help you out. Okay, so this is going to be what you will work on for the next couple of weeks. And if you have any questions on these links or Desmos or how to find it, please let me know. I will be checking in and sending you some feedback. So good luck and hope you are all doing well.